as the weird scandal around the BBC chairman Richard Sharp continues to escalate. The Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, on the other hand, is trying his best to cover his own back. You know what I love? Every time you see a news story on the BBC or Sky News, you have to try your best to translate it. You have to read between the lines or actually see what's going on behind the main headline. It's always been the case, especially when it comes to issues or scandals related to Boris Johnson when he was Prime Minister. Usually, it also affected Rishi, but Rishi Sunak always stayed out of it. He was very smart, but there's always a time and limit. This is actually about this headline, that Rishi Sunak stands by Richard Sharp as BBC chairman. Now, there are a couple of problems with this story. One is the fact that Rishi is essentially throwing Boris on the bus, considering this whole scandal relates to both Richard Sharp and his friend Boris Johnson about the alleged financial corruption. And somehow he says, I'm still supporting Richard Sharp. And I'm going to talk about the second problem with this, which is actually long-term about BBC license fee. So, what Rishi Sunak has now said is that this whole thing relates to a process that happened before I was Prime Minister, obviously. So, okay, obviously, yeah, nothing to do with you. Sure, we get it. Richard Sharp is someone who was selected appropriately following the appropriate process. Okay, so you basically said a lot without saying anything. Just trying your best to stay out of it. Interestingly enough, the fear that I have is that maybe this is some sort of favor situation. This is some sort of, okay, if I have your back, then you could do this, you could be friendly towards me, and maybe we could have a conversation about the future of the BBC. Considering Rishi Sunak already got rid of people like Nadine Dorries, who wanted to destroy the license fee and the BBC charter by 2027, Boris Johnson and Nadine were in favour of getting rid of the license fee. Maybe, again, we don't know yet, we've still got a few years to go, well, we'll find out by the next election, if somehow in the next Tory manifesto for the next election, there might not be a mention of abolishing the license fee. Maybe this could get linked to other stuff. I don't understand why it's so important for Rishi Sunak, who has to deal with other problems in the country. Why is it so important for him to come out to defend Richard Sharp? You could just say nothing. Or maybe the whole thing is just innocent. Maybe he's just responding to a question. But he already threw his former boss on the bus anyway, a couple of times actually, with Boris Johnson. We'll see what happens with this situation with Richard Sharp, because he might not actually survive this current BBC chairman. So it might turn out to be a very unnecessary battle to pick for Rishi Sunak. Let me know what you guys think of this whole saga. On Mahyar, Tousi, and we are the media.